Hey everyone, welcome to Group Text. I'm so excited today. We have one of my past guests, Nadine Rajabi, who is one of my absolute, I'm so excited she's here. Since we last spoke 3 years ago, Nadine has been sailing the seas as the executive producer on, as we all know, one of my favorite reality TV addictions, Below Deck, specifically Below Deck Mediterranean. A new episode airs every Monday at 9 p.m. on Bravo and then streams on Peacock. Okay, I cannot wait to catch up. Ahoy, Nadine.
Melissa, thank you so much for having me. You are absolutely, I've been your biggest fan for, my God, for the longest time. I mean, since I was, I just grew up watching you and your mom, and thank you for having me. It's such an honor, always.
Well, we were just talking and I said, every time I see your name in the credits, I'm like, that's my friend Nadine.
Yeah.
Steve, my fiance, because I made him watch all of the franchises.
Oh my
starting
gosh.
episode 1, season 1. He got completely addicted.
By the way, how different was it? Like, how much has the show evolved? I went back because we were doing the after show, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, because I'm in it, so I don't think about it. Going back and watching, it is it is like the edit, like obviously cameras were different, but like it just feels so long ago when you actually watch that.
Yeah, and the storytelling has changed and
Yes.
people's behavior
Yes.
has changed,
Yes.
which we'll get into.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. So what did Steve think? Yeah. Yeah.
Because every time I'm like, that's my friend Nadine. And he's like, I know already. And I
Sorry,
just did
Steve.
it. And I just did it the other night. I'm like, there's my friend Nadine. She's coming back on the show. He's like, you're stupid. Okay.
I
So
love
last
it.
time we talked a lot about Below Deck. And of course, we're going to get into that. But I want to talk to you about you first, because I went back and looked at your IMDb bio because it's
Yeah.
fascinating. I'm going to quote: national champion black belt, a world-class soccer player, a competitive snowboarder, and you are truly the only person I know to have ever delivered a TED Talk about a unibrow.
Yeah, that's right.
I think you were either, I want to call you multi-talented, but I'm also thinking you have a very short attention span.
You actually hit it on the head. That is like, if anyone were to, and listen, I'm totally open about talking about my ADHD. It is, I have ADHD. So my doctor said I'm high functioning, so I'm able to, do all these things. But like I have ADHD, and I think a lot of that was, I grew up playing sports, which helped me immensely, with focus, with, just trying to just kind of get it together as a human being and somebody that had so much energy. And I happen to be athletic. And so I was one of those people also that like I had to go to the top. Whatever I did, I had to do it the best I could. Even if I wasn't the best in my mind, I had to try. I had to just keep going. And snowboarding, I wanted a lot of attention as a kid. So I was also that idiot to be like, hey, I'm gonna go jump off that cliff or do whatever it is. And now I'm like, oh my God, no way. Like I want my bones intact. And I want it's pretty wild.
Are you an only child or do you have siblings?
I have one sibling who's 12 years younger than me. And so I basically grew up like an only child. So it was very much, it was, yeah, I just kind of, I had no structure. My family, like my parents were immigrants, right? So they were just like trying to figure it out. So like, when kids were going to bed at 7 p.m. with a bedtime story, I was just up watching Three's Company till got, whatever time. It was just, it was like the inmates were running the asylum at that point.
Yeah. Well, I was up doing those things because it was my parents' business. So a little bit different.
Right,
Which,
right.
I mean, at one point you had to terrify them.
Oh yeah, it wasn't until my mom had my brother where she's like, "Oh, this is like what it's like to have a child that's like not literally bouncing off the walls all the time." I mean, I was drawing on the walls and my brother was reading the New York Times at 5 years old. It's like that was the difference between my brother and I. Yes. So, okay. So, yes, which by the way, your mother inspired me to do stand up, which I think we talked about that story last time. So when they asked me to do unibrow, and it was something about change. And for me, I grew up.
Wait,
Sorry,
stop.
okay, yeah.
How did the TED Talk people find you and then decide that unibrow was your topic?
Well, I gave them the unibrow. The topic was, I have to look at the prompt again, but it was about something about change and embracing change or something like that. And so we had to pitch them a bunch of different things that we would talk about when they approached me. They approached me because of my stand up way back in the day. And they said, hey, you've done a lot of things. You're multifaceted. I think you'd be a great speaker. So I kept thinking about like what really, for me, it was embracing because I had so much shame growing up because I grew up in Orange County with, a bunch of blonde hair, blue eyed kids. Now there's a lot of, Persians, but I was like the only Persian, if not maybe two of us at the school. And I just wanted to fit in. And it was the 80s. It was after like the hostage crisis. It was all that. So I was already used humor to try to endear myself to people and fit in and all those things. And I remember my mom, like I had a unibrow, and my mom was like, you can't pluck it until, I don't know why she had this rule, but until eighth grade. And I'm like, Mom, what are these milestones you have? Like, I did not understand. And I hated it because the older you get, the more hair you have on your body, the more people are calling you unibrow. I just was like, I couldn't shave my legs till seventh grade, and then I couldn't get rid of my unibrow till eighth. And I really didn't I now back hindsight, I asked my mom, I was like, Mom, what were your milestones? She's like, I don't know. I'm so sorry. Like she just apologized. She just made up rules. She was doing, our parents just did their best, right? Like that's all they could do. And so I remember that was a thing that I was so ashamed of. I used the unibrow more about like the shame of my heritage and things like that. It's like the things that we have the most shame about are the things that we have to embrace as adults because it's actually what's made us unique. And that was the biggest thing of like, I felt like my unibrow, it like really symbolized my culture and everything else that I had, like personally, and the shame I had. But I had to learn how to embrace my shame. And, now I'm proud to say, hey, like I have, an immigrant family. I've got, I grew up different. That's okay. But as a kid, it's like, that's you, all you want to do is fit in. So a lot of my speech was about embracing your inner unibrow because everybody has something that they have shame inside. Well, listen, if you don't, please, I want to, I want to meet that person. Yeah, exactly. But like, it's just embracing what you have shame and because that actually is you just have to overcome that and you have to embrace that change and that really once I embraced that I became more comfortable with myself and that changed everything.
Do you remember one of your original like joke that kills and you go thank you and good night?
Yes, it wasn't one of the originals. It was something that came a couple years after and it was not the cleanest joke, but it wasn't the dirtiest. It was really, it morphed because I went to grad school. And when I was in grad school, this is the real story of all of it. I lived in this house with three other guys and we called it the Slut Hut. Not because I was a slut, but because they would always, we shouldn't even use the word, but it was like, they'd always bring sluts over and that was the joke. And sometimes I'd walk out of my bedroom and they'd be watching porn and I'd be like, these fucking guys, like, what do you, like, you know what I mean? It was just, and so so the whole thing was I talked about the Slut Hut and, when I would walk through, I'd always be like, I was always a storyteller, I guess. I'd be like, there's no story in this. Like you want to see the pizza guy bring the pizza, he brings it over, they have sex, the pizza's just sitting there, like have a slice of pizza, eat the pizza, do something, right? So then I was like, I think there should be a porn character named Earl Grey and all he does is teabag people. So then he just, so I, so, so, so then he just like walks through the frame and he comes in and he's like, Earl Grey. And then he dips in and he's just gone. He's out. He's like, that's it. And so it's just one dip and he's gone. And so that was my closing joke about the living in the Slut Hut. And it was stupid. It was just like a quick gimmicky, listen, based on a true story that I really said that, but it was just,
By the way, here's how my sick mind works. I'm like, that could be a whole series of like how to's. Tea time with Earl.
What was that? Yes. Time with Earl.
So let's get into below deck.
Yes.
Explain to people how, and we've talked about this before, how it's set up, because how the boat is actually made into a working floating set.
It really is. So we have cameras. I mean, I think we have 18 surveillance cameras And then whatever we don't have that is flowing through our monitors, we set up GoPros because there's a lot of blind spots on the boat. So we just can't see everything that's happening on those GoPros because we don't have a feed. But the whole thing is basically surveillance. And then we have anywhere from 1 to 4 cameras if we're lucky up at the same time. And we work in shifts, roaming, exactly. And so the way we are able to track where people are, obviously the boat's small, you're following them. Let's just say, and then we've got producers that are like listening on, and they're flipping through every audio channel because the whole boat is mic'd as well. It's rigged. You could hear everything. So sometimes I'll be like, hey, it's awfully quiet. Have you heard from, let's just say, Aisha, the chief stew? And they'd be like, hold on, let me see if I can hear her mic. And sometimes they'll go, oh, she's in the bathroom, bring that down. You know what I mean? It's like, we're not listening to the bathroom. It's like, you don't know where you're going to pop in because we can't hear everybody at the same time. I mean, unless you're like bionic and you could, cipher what people are saying. But they'll go, oh, I think that they're in, the guest cabin cleaning or whatever that is. So then that's when I'll go, if it's kind of slow, I'll say to the director, send a camera to the guest cabin, let's see what they're doing, and follow them doing that. And then someone will go, oh my God, or if you stay on surveillance, the chef is losing his shit. It's like, send the camera there. So everything is you're trying to guess. Let's just say you are following them, and let's just say there's a fight. You're trying to guess, like, how are these people going to react? Or if it's a funny moment, whatever that is, because we have to be 2 steps ahead of them of like where they're going to be, what they're going to do. And if not, we have to just be totally vigilant and listening to exactly where they are on the boat, where they're headed. And it's funny, I never thought about this until a couple seasons ago when it was a returning cast member. I forget who said it, but they said, Nadine, we always know something's going to happen when there's a camera on us and there's nothing going on because they feel like someone's going to be coming towards them. Because we'll hear that, like, I don't know, the chief stew is going to go yell at the second stew. And I'm like, you know what? That's so true. I never thought about that. But sometimes nothing's going on. So we're just shooting them cleaning.
Working.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Working. That's it. So it's always it's a crapshoot, and they always get anxiety about all that. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I never even thought about that you're just anticipating, is something bad going to happen, or am I just going to be cleaning?
So, and you also have what we call video village, sort of the control room set up on the boat.
That's right. So we take over a guest suite, and the whole thing.
You guys take over the master.
Yep. Well, not always. No, but a lot of the times, most of the time we do. So it's sometimes either now they call it, oh my God, I forget what they call it now. The
cabin.
VIP. Yes, the VIP cabin. And then there's sometimes on some boats, they'll have the VIP, and then they have like the junior VIP. So if we can fit in the junior VIP cabin, I'm just calling it the junior VIP. That's not what it's called. Then we go in there. But on Moustique, which you're seeing, we set it up in the VIP cabin because it was we just couldn't fit. Like, there's just too much. And the other state rooms, and you also have to be away from the other rooms. And so some of the time, like on Northern Sun, on Below Deck Down Under, our control room was in like on the same row because that was such a that the layout on that boat was so weird. It was an old fishing vessel, and it got turned into I use the word super yacht very loosely. I was shocked when I saw that boat.
Well, I was going to say, from a production point of view, which I also come out of, I remember watching and going, this boat isn't going to work.
Oh my gosh.
I remember watching it. I'm like, it's not going to work for story. It's a nightmare to shoot. There's a lot going to have to happen in post because I mean, I could just see like it was not cohesive or it did not.
No, it wasn't set up. It didn't.
It did not land well to be shot.
The galley was set up weird. Everything was like compartmentalized. Like, yes, it was so, and so
and low ceilings.
Yes. Oh, like I'm very short. I'm 5'1", and so there's like one step I could actually hold the ceiling on one. It's so funny you observed that, but it was such a quirky boat. And I remember our video village was literally next to the guest cabins. And so I'd be like, you guys, we have to be quiet because, we get excited or we're not yelling at each other, yelling at the screens, being like, don't do that or whatever that is. And I'm like, they can hear everything. So it's not conducive when a boat is like that. So on Moustique, the VIP was on another level. It was on the main the main level. So it was a lot better where the guest cabins were underneath. So we could yell as loud as we wanted.
Exactly. So last time we talked, Down Under had not been launched, nor had
That's right.
Adventure.
Yeah.
Um, how do you who decides there's another franchise here, and how do you guess if it's gonna be successful? Because Down Under, wildly successful. Adventure, not so
Yeah.
much.
Look, I don't want to. The network is who picks those up. Adventure was a different production company. I don't want to say anything negative about either of the things. I think it just, you never know. It could be the production company. It could be the cast. I'm not saying for Below Deck, for any series, right? It could be anything. Because the production company that did Adventure, I really like and I respect.
I think, by the way, it
So
was done beautifully,
yes,
but there was the missing.
and my friends worked on that. Yeah.
It was the missing element. You don't have people in bikinis. You don't have people jumping in the water. After you've seen one person rappel down, unless there's someone having a panic attack. Now, what do we for a mountain?
Yeah.
What do we do
I'll,
today?
I'll also think this, like, listen, because I agree. I think they did a great job, and I really like Captain Carey and all the people.
The area was gorgeous.
Gorgeous. It was amazing. I think it's because this is just my opinion. Because in today's landscape, I think it launched like back in the day. If you launch a lot of unknown people, it wasn't. It was a lot easier to get something off the ground. For Down Under, I remember I really fought for Aisha to come over for a crossover, and I really the network would tell you I really kind of did piss them off a little bit. I fell on my sword, not that they didn't want her, but it was just adamant about having somebody that was a familiar face to launch the series, and I really think that helped. I also think that Captain Jason is
100% because
yeah,
I hate to use the word spin-off, but when it was scripted series, they spin someone off. You love the
yes,
person, you love the character, and you follow them. You
that's right.
trust their storytelling.
Yep.
But I agree with that 100%. Oh, and Captain Jason, could you?
Right. He's, what do they say? Visually aspirational is the PC word.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, whoa, a little bit different than Captain Lee. Holy crap.
I remember because we were looking for a captain for a long time for Down Under. And I remember when Jason came on, everybody was like, we don't care if he doesn't. By the way, he has a personality, but he was so nervous. He'll even tell you his first interview with us. And we're like, we don't care if he doesn't have a personality. He's going to do fine. And thankfully he has a fantastic personality, and it was really funny. But I really do think that that's what Adventure suffered from, was not having a familiar face to guide you into that. When we launched Med, we brought over Chef Ben. It was like everyone has that. Even sailing had, not that Chef Adam was a big superstar at the time, but they brought over Chef Adam. I always think for any, like you're saying, scripted series, anything, you need that familiar face that you trust that will bring you over.
And, I mean, all wildly successful. I love that Captain Carey moved
Yes.
over to OG Below Deck.
Yes. I love that out of Adventure, like he came out of, like something good came out of Adventure in that sense, if they're not shooting it anymore.
I imagine I mean, God, you're in season 9 of Med. What
Yep.
of OG is, as I call it, 6, 15.
I think they just shot, oh my gosh, what did they just shoot? No, I think it was for the 3 seasons ahead of us. So 10, 11, 12. They just shot 12 going into 13.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. Or maybe they shot 13. I can confirm that later. Yeah.
And sailing's coming back. I mean, so and Down Under's coming back.
Yeah.
So it's just like it's endless.
It's funny too, because all of them have such a different personality, which I like. It's like that's the thing. It's like they have a different point of view.
And I go back and look at the originals. It's like, how have you seen it change? I see it in the way the crew behaves,
Yeah.
changes. I see a lot more risks in the
Yes.
casting.
Yes.
What major changes, I mean, obviously production wise, have you seen?
Here's what I think, and I don't know if, like, listen, I don't want Bravo to get mad at me, but this is the truth is, I think sometimes when you have some seasons are a lot more fun to watch, some can get a little more toxic. I think the show sometimes, and I don't, this is not a knock on it. I think any series, I think it's lost its innocence a little bit of like, back then it was yachties that were just doing a YOLO thing. The show was very, people watched it, but it wasn't in the zeitgeist the way it is now. And it was like truly yachties just doing a YOLO thing. Maybe they did another season and then they go back to their boats. And now I think some people, this is for every series, people want to come on and they all work on boats, right? Unless they've lied on their CV, they want to come be reality stars. And I think that's the problem of what is happening in all of reality now.
100%.
Yes.
And that crosses every reality show.
Yes.
Everything. I mean,
yes.
it's a whole different, and they all want to be influencers and spin off being a show
Right.
into being, on Instagram and TikTok. Absolutely. And that's a genre wide
Yes.
problem.
Yes. And I think for me, and I'm like, hey, and I always say to them, be yourself, because if you try to be something that you're not, the camera is going to sniff it from a mile away. The camera never lies. And that's when you kind of run into these seasons that kind of become toxic, or that somebody's trying to be something that they're not, or trying to start something. And it's just like, why are they doing this? Just, do you know what I mean? It's like, and it's so hard to watch that. And, some people are, and for me, I really do try to cast, everyone's like, oh, they cast this person on purpose or whatever. We don't know when they're lying on their CVs. I don't personally do the checks, but we have a whole department that does all the checks. We've now actually hired like an agency, like a yacht agency, to make sure that they're not lying on their CVs, because that's not good for the show when they're lying on their CVs. Do we look at people for personalities? Yes. Like that's, of course, it's a television show at the end of the day as well. So that's a big thing as well. It's like, hey, like French Max from season 8. That kid,
oh, we loved him.
Oh my God, I was obsessed with him. He made me laugh so hard. I remember in the first couple episodes, he was getting like just...
People who don't know, French Max was a crew member.
Yes.
He was one of the deckhands.
Yes.
And every excuse to everything is like, well, I'm French.
That's it. Literally, it's like he needed to rest. The food wasn't good enough for him. The funniest story, which is we were able to kind of tell us,
he always needed to rest.
He always needed to rest. He needed his hours. Listen, which I get, it's maritime law, but he needed a little extra beauty sleep. And then I remember the day he came to Sandy and he said he wanted to quit. And we made it work with the Eiffel Tower meter. And I had him talk about an interview. But what he told me in private was, I said, why do you want to quit, Max? And because I watched the whole thing go down with Sandy, and I was like, oh my God. And I like pulled him aside. And it's not very often that we'll ever come out, but I'm like, we have to know as producers, if somebody wants to leave, make sure they're safe, all these other, all the things, and make sure he's actually okay. And he said, when he doesn't wake up with an erection in the mornings, he knows that his body is telling him that he's not happy. I'm not happy anymore.
But yeah, and you guys got him to say that on the show.
I said, Max, please, yes. So I had an interview with him, and he goes, my Eiffel Tower, and I was like dying. I was like he just made me die, because the thing is, this kid learned English from watching movies. Like, he's so witty, so brilliant, and I'm like, Max, you're so smart. Like, I could never go to France and have that sense of humor and be that witty, like just learning from watching French movies. Like, the kid is brilliant. And I was obsessed. Everything he said made me laugh. I know he made the crew crazy because he just didn't want to work, but I would just laugh. Like, you couldn't help but laugh. And I think the crew finally got on with that, and they were like, okay, it's just Max beat Max. But
I mean, they ended up loving him.
Yes.
Because he was he was so good. But you just brought up casting.
Yeah.
I know as a viewer, how someone is walking down, how much luggage they have. I can tell you who's going to be an issue.
Yeah.
2 questions. One is, sometimes someone basically disappears. So you think you've cast someone who's really interesting, and they end up being a dud. You can't fire them.
You can't fire them. You cannot fire them, because then they're on the care of the captain, right? And there's nothing we could do. And that has happened, Melissa, so many times where you're like, oh my gosh, they were so funny. They're, they work hard, play hard, and then you get on the boat and they're just, some people just freeze because of the cameras. Some people freak out because they're like, oh my gosh, what did I sign up for? How is this going to affect my life? And some people are just like, I mean, they just silent. And I'm like, what happened? You were so funny and outgoing. Like, and we interviewed them a couple times, and I'm like, I actually just, and there's nothing you could do. There's absolutely nothing you could do. Or some people become really defiant, and you're like, you meet somebody like two times on a Skype, maybe three times on a Skype at most, maybe one time. Some of the people, some people do so well, we just do one Skype with them and that's it. Some people we talk to a couple times because you want to make sure. And there's nothing you could do. There's absolutely nothing you could do. And especially if they're good at their job, then you're really stuck with them because the captain can't do anything if they're good at the job.
Right. And then there's ones that you go, oh, this is going to be a good, when you're casting.
Yes.
Yeah. Are there some people who are like, oh, I love him. He is going to cause trouble.
Max, like the guy was so out of control. He was on his casting. I wish we were like, I'm sure I have it on my computer somewhere because they were recorded. He was wearing this shirt. His shirt was like, his chest was like open. He was wearing a chain and he's like, I am French. I am the number one deckhand. And I was like dying. I'm like, this guy, his hubris and like the way he was number one at everything. And I was laughing the whole time. And he had me like, I was in love with him. And he came on the third episode, Charter 2 of season 8. He was a replacement because I remember not everybody was on board. They thought he was too much. And I said, this kid's a star. You got to trust me. He's a star. Like because some people, he's so funny. He is so funny. Or like Luca last season everyone thought that he was so adorable. And, he was on Down Under for a one charter. I remember he was somebody that was shy in his casting, but everyone's like, oh, he's a good looking kid. He ended up being great, and he was a great bosun. Like, who knew he was going to have to end up being the bosun?
And did a great job.
And did a fantastic job. Like, Aisha, I remember when we first cast her for season 4 of Below Deck Med, she just was, it was funny. It was to the point where it was kind of polarizing, where we were mixed. Like, I was totally in love with her. So were a couple other people. Cortland Cox loved her. And I don't remember, there's a couple people that were like, she's too much. And I'm like, no, I go, she's fantastic. And it's just, you just don't know. And it's good when you have that mixed reaction if somebody is split, because you'll know right there. That's your audience reaction if they're going to be split or not. More people aren't as split on Aisha because she's so endearing and lovable. But I'm saying like somebody like Max, it's like, it's just, and I love how when people are unapologetic about who they are and they don't care, that's always going to make great TV. It's like, that's it.
I am friends with Frasier.
Oh, right.
And
yeah.
He's like the Dorothy Parker with the one-liners under his breath.
He is so witty. He is so witty.
But it's about someone being unapologetically who he is. And the best part about him, I always find, is everything he says under his breath and in his interviews.
Yes. I love him.
He's hilarious.
Yeah.
So how close do you get with the crew?
It's funny. We really do try to observe a fourth wall. I feel like when they are on the boat, they are in our care, right? So I have this like not weird, it's, I guess normal maternal instinct over these kids. And so like if something is going on, if something's, I'm like, hey, I'm here if you need to talk. And I'm always like looking out for them in that way. Not just me, our whole team is like, our team is fantastic. Like I am zero without the team. They really do everything because I'm not on the boat the whole time. And so like everyone's just an extension of each other and they really look after them. We don't interact with them on the boat at all. It's not until after where I kind of, then the barrier is kind of broken. Like Captain Sandy. Captain Sandy is one of my, best friends. I officiated her wedding. And I was so honored when she asked me to officiate her wedding. It's actually going to be in the finale of this season. But she's somebody that I'm very close to. Aisha, I'm very close to because we've done so many seasons together. It's hard not to get close to them. But it's hard when you're close to somebody and then you're shooting with them because you really do have to keep that boundary and you have to be unbiased. Like I could have a strong opinion. We can all have a strong opinion. The way you watch a show, But when we get to edit, when we get to all that other stuff, we have to keep it unbiased. And people can say all they want. Well, they're like, oh, I got a bad edit, whatever it is. And I'm like, no, we really did give both sides. And that's all we could do. And in interview, if they don't want to speak to something that they, in their mind, like, let's just say something went wrong and they're not copying to it, it's like, there's only so much we could do as producers. Cause I'm like, hey, just be self aware, tell the truth. The audience will be way less harsh if you're the person saying, like, they can't say anything if you're like, hey, I fucked up. It's okay. Like, what's the audience going to say? They'll say, you're right, you fucked up. But if they're like totally in denial about it, that's when the audience gets mad because they sniff it out.
Did you know
So
Sandy was going to propose?
I did. I did. I did. I did. But Leah obviously had no idea. No, but
I love
I
them
did.
both. I know them both. They're
Yes,
great.
yes, yes. But I did. And I remember Sandy was wanting to propose for a long time and she had told me and she was so nervous. And,
Were you like, save it
um,
for the show?
yeah, yeah. Well, but then I said, maybe Leah wouldn't want that. And we had a whole conversation about it. Cause she was nervous about that. Like, is it, she didn't want to like, put anybody in an uncomfortable situation. It is on national TV. But I think Leah is, totally was fine with it and all those things. And, but I do remember Leah looked at me and she texted me. She goes, do I need, because she thought that she was going on a date. I feel like she was sniffing something out because she's like, what kind of shoes do I need to wear? What kind of date is this? And I'm like, does she know?
Do I need to be,
I
did I have
said,
to blow out my hair for this?
right, exactly, exactly. Do I need to get a
Okay, I just want to talk
manicure?
about the guests for a sec.
Yes.
Because every season there is so much bad behavior. And again, you see them coming down the dock and you're
Oh my
like,
gosh.
ah,
Well, as soon as they are complaining or saying they want something, right, even in the car, right, because they're in our production vans that go in, they're mic'd. We mic them. The way it works is I meet them at the hotel. I give them a speech. I say, no, no uncleared music, no, like ignore the cameras. It's like my whatever the five basic rules: observe the fourth wall, don't talk to our camera people, blah blah blah. And then they mic them. They get in the car, and you can hear what they're saying. And I'm like, you just know right away what they're having in their private conversations, or when they're mic'd in their bedrooms because we can't take cameras in the bedroom unless they invite us in. It's like you just like right away, right away when I'm giving that speech, right away, you're like, oh, here we go.
so okay, because they all have to be smart enough now to know that any bad behavior will be shown.
Yes, no matter what. Yes.
You would think by now, and I also think about this with the crew. You guys know about what reality TV is now. Do you ever stop and think, wow, there was, I guess it was the girl, I can't remember her name, who was really close with her dad, and then she ended up wanting to date one of the deckhands, and they hooked up together, and she hadn't told her parents, and then she realizes
Yes.
they're going to see it.
Yes.
How do people not think this through? No one has never seen a reality show. All the
I don't
guests
know.
have never are not people who have never seen a reality show. Sometimes I think they acted up just to do that, but
Yeah.
sometimes they have to be horrified at.
I think some of them get so drunk. I think some of them I don't know what it is. I actually don't know what gets into them. I can understand crew members forgetting the cameras are there because we're just there. We roll 24 hours a day. So, and they're also in such a bubble. But the guests that come on, I don't understand because they're there for 3 days. Sometimes four if they're on a longer charter, but it's like, how do they not like it's like they're not used to the cameras. They see it. So, and I even say to them, we're recording everything. So whatever you say, I always say, be honest and whatever, like that's just it. Like there's not, but like, and then they either blame the show or they blame the edit or they apologize for their behavior. It's like,
You've seen the show.
right,
You
right,
have
right.
what this is, especially with men. This is season 9.
Yes. It's a funny story. I'm close with the Orbisons now. And Roy and Osa, I don't know if Roy had seen it or not, but Osa's wife said that she had never, I think neither of them had seen it. They had never seen the show. And I think that they somehow got like, paid to go on. And they were waiting so long to get on because I think there was weather or something like that, that they thought, oh God, did we just give our money for this charter? And it's a whole like someone's going to come steal all our money. So they had no idea what to expect. And I remember Roy, he got very he drank a lot. That was the second time they came.
Yeah, the second time
And
he was overserved, as we
I
like
was
to say.
dying. And I went, Roy, and I said, what happened? He goes, because he's not a huge drinker like that. And he goes, I started thinking it got boring, so I just had to spice things up. And I laughed so hard because I was like, oh my God, Roy. It was just so funny. But he was, yes, overserved. And I think he must have just got bored. But they're the loveliest human beings like on earth. They are just the kindest family. They're like the Brady Bunch with all their kids. And it just, I love them. But yes, other people when they're behaving badly. I remember I think it was season three. Some woman said that she doesn't want to get pasta served in a bowl because her dog eats out of a bowl. We had some guests this season that were apologizing for their behavior. I don't know if you remember that, because were not the most polite.
I like the one that Aisha had to feed at the mermaid.
Oh my God. That they were so funny, those guests. I love them so much. Like I think that was Pam Duke. She actually messaged me and said, I can't believe how drunk I was, but thank you for being kind. Because I mean, that whole charter made me laugh. We could not fit everything in. They had a dance party. It was like an episode of Laugh-In because they're all in their mermaid outfits. And I like had to walk out of the control room to laugh because I was like, this is absurd. I wish we could have put that in, but there was just no time. But they were so funny. And she was like Jennifer Coolidge. She was just hilarious.
Couple last questions. Other than Sandy, and in all the years on the franchises, favorite cast member, not personally, but just favorite.
It's like a viewer.
Yeah, I mean, for you, when you said,
Oh, for
okay,
me.
this person is gold, like favorite one. It's hard to
You
get
know,
past Ben.
I love Ben. There's so many amazing, like I hate playing favorites because if anybody listens to this, you're all my favorite. There's some standouts, Melissa. I'm gonna be Ben. I love Kate. Kate's one of my dearest friends. Kate to me is, just so witty and funny.
She's
Aisha,
also
yeah,
just such a bitch and doesn't
yes,
care.
she doesn't care. She will always tell you the truth. Like she will always tell you the truth, no matter what. Aisha, of course, she's like my little sister. Hannah, I love. Hannah and I are very close. It was funny. I got trolled because they thought production fired Hannah. And I'm like, production did not fire Hannah. It was actually breaking the rules. But Hannah, I'm close to. I'm close to Katie Flood. I'm close to Malia. Like, it's so hard because there's so many different people that are like, so standouts, I would say it's always like one of the Chief Stews or like, somebody like that. Like Aisha just cracks me up. Kate, Sandy, and I love all the captains, but Max made me laugh like nobody else. I know he's a one season cast member, maybe more, but he just made me die. But I would say for the longevity of the series, the standouts have always been Ben, Kate, Aisha, and of course all the captains because they're the mainstays. But there's a reason, you know what I mean? It's like love them or hate them. It's like you're watching for a reason.
Okay, least favorite. Who is the person that they had to hold you back to not throw overboard?
Oh my God, um, I don't want to name. There might be a couple, but I don't want to get in trouble for this one, Melissa. There was one that you and I interviewed, the season we interviewed about that was on that season that was tough. And that person got let go.
Yeah, the guy who he was fucked up. All the drama on Australia that we all know.
That was that too. That was terrible. Oh my God, that was such a traumatic experience. I actually like blacked that out. That was terrible. Those seasons were so that season, excuse me, was so tough. And that night was so difficult for cast and crew and everybody. It
People
was
can go
just,
back and look it up, but it was handled so well. Favorite yacht?
oh, favorite yacht. I really liked, I think visually on TV, Motor Yacht Home looked the best, but it was actually not a good yacht as far as it was always breaking down. But visually, it was beautiful. And I loved Lady Michelle from season 6 in Croatia. That boat was just so stable. She was beautiful. But I loved that boat. But Home looked the best on TV. It was almost like from far away, IKEA furniture can look so great. And then you get really close up, you're like, oh, it's falling apart. Well, not all IKEA furniture falls apart, but you know what I mean? It's just not as well made. But I would say Lady Michelle was probably the best made boat that I liked.
Worst boat?
Mechanically, I would say Sirocco and Home. Sirocco for the anchors, and yeah.
Okay, and this one's for the hardcore med fans. They're the ones that, okay, does Norma actually exist?
Yes.
For those who don't know,
Yes.
Norma is like the Charlie from Charlie's Angels. She seems to have a lot of power because she finds crew.
Yeah.
But yet we never see her.
Her name is Norma Therese. Melissa, I'm actually, this is a hot take for you. This is, nobody knows this, so it's okay. Bravo can slap my hand for saying this because it's not that big of a deal. She will make a quick cameo at the wedding. We will lower third her, and you will see her at the wedding on the finale. So you will see her. Her name is Norma Therese, and she is actually very involved in, she is, yes, she's the woman when it comes to all things yachting. She knows everybody, she knows everything, and she is so connected.
So you can tell I really do watch the show. Anyway,
I love that.
Below Deck Mediterranean Season 9, new episodes Mondays at 9 p.m. on Bravo and streaming on Peacock. Nadine, we're going to have to come on and talk about your new shows when there are new shows.
Yes, I can't wait. Yes, I have a new job that I've accepted. So this is my, I guess, podcast announcement that I've left this series. It made me so sad. It was a very difficult decision for me, but I'm going to run unscripted at a studio, and I'm show running a series right now for a streamer for them. And then I'm going to, be doing different types of projects. So I can't wait. I'm actually really excited, to share everything with you. But Med will always be in my heart. Soul Down Under and all the Below Deck franchises. And Sandy calls me every day. She's like, it's not the same. Well, not the production's great, but I think we had such a bond. But yeah, so I'm excited. It's a new chapter for me after a decade of being on the Below Deck franchises.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Melissa.